all your electrical outlets have to work, all your electrical fixtures have to work, and the covers for them can't be cracked. The appliances have to be functional. The porcelain in the sink can't be chipped. Like I said, I got a whole list. I can give you it.
I'd like to get that.
You got it, and it's a checklist. If you got that, you got it. They have one other one which says you also have to meet all local health and safety codes. So, property this size, you can't have a dog on it more than 30 pounds by San Francisco law. You can't have more than 3 pets in an apartment or something. I mean, they're local codes. You have to keep those too.
Those are city codes?
The city code. The fire department says, well, you have to have releasable latches on your bars to windows if they're in the bedrooms. If there's in the same wall as something else like a door that gets out, well, that's okay. You don't have to have the releasable because you can go out the door. Same place, right next to each other. So the local codes will tell you fire codes,
fire and housing,
fire, building, public health, any code that has to do with health and safety, whether it's the city or the state, you have to meet in these properties also. The federal government has their own laundry list of things you got to do to be decent, safe, and sanitary. And they have a clause in there that says, plus, besides all these, you have to do whatever the local codes say that you have to do to be decent, safe, and sanitary. So you can't have a rabid dog running around, or you can't have a wild animal in here. I mean, the local codes will preclude that, and so they don't put it in the federal code. But basically, it's a very easy list to follow.
Okay.
Once you get the federal, you just call down to each of these departments and ask what rules they've got and get copies of them, or go to a law library and get the building codes, get the health and safety codes, get whatever for the public health department or the municipality, and add them, and you're done. With the regulatory agreement, when you get into good condition, there is no standard of what good condition is. And also in the regulatory agreement, there are some very strong checklists in there that you have to follow. In here, it says you must hire one of their approved property management companies, because your board is not supposed to have access to their neighbors' confidential information. And if you're a member of the board, whether you're a volunteer coming from outside or whether you're a resident on that board of 7 that controls the business here, I'm not supposed to be able to walk into Raymond's and find out how much Section 8 he's receiving or what his financial situation is. And he's not supposed to be able, if he's on the board, to come in and watch mine, and other shareholders are not. So you had to hire...
They externalize it.
You have to hire somebody else who operates that portion of the business. The rest of the contracts, like this, the board sign, the HAP agreement, the board sign, the requirements here are all on the board, except the ones that have to do with determining Section 8 and determine eligibility for it, and status and paying rent and things like that, who's in your household. All those things are handled by the management company. Interestingly enough, I don't think there is a management company that wasn't either established by somebody who used to work for HUD's multifamily unit, or who was trained by somebody who was a former HUD employee, and they left the company that ex-HUD employee established and then started their own.
Are these private companies?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So this is really a case of externalization. They're passing off a job to a private corporation.
Yeah.
And it's not a HUD corporation, but there are a lot of HUD people in
It's incestuous as it could be.
Yeah. So do I have this right?
Now,
it isn't at that point when it's doing that management job, it is not formally a HUD corporation.
Not a bit.
But all these people who are in HUD are part of that corporation.
No.
Do I have that
That's the
correct?
second part is incorrect.
Okay. I thought I heard
The
you say
company,
that.
well, let me say it this way. Let me give
All right.
you an example. Somewhere in the middle 80s, after our flex contract went in, missed it, and we got all that money that was overseen and for all the work that wasn't done by Mr. Harrison when he was the head of the multifamily unit. Mr. Harrison, Mr. Berger, 3 or 4 other people whose names and stuff I can give you, all worked for HUD in that same department. All decided they were going to go out and leave their federal employer, kiss that federal job goodbye, start a management company.
Okay.
And because they were so knowledgeable of this type of property,
Got it.
they would
From working in
apply, and having written the bylaws, having written the federal regulations that structured them, that they would form a corporation of their own. They no longer work for the government, they're on their own now, but they will ask if the people, in their unbiased opinion, that they used to work with, if they're qualified to be on the short list of people who can, or companies that can manage properties like this. And without reservation, in every instance, every ex-employee who's ever applied to be a management agent has gotten on the short list. It not only got on, Harrison's been on the short list in 3 different capacities. Harrison, Berger, God, I wish I could remember the other 2 women's name, and 3 or 4 others that were basically the whole management company that used to be federal employees, a little nest of them. First they went down to LA, and I don't remember, or I don't know that I ever even heard, but there was a company that they ran down in Los Angeles that somehow got into trouble. The place wasn't kept up, not according to even the local Los Angeles office had problems with the way they were keeping it up. I guess somebody outed them for some heinous physical property conditions, and the company vaporized. But the same little nest became Berger and Associates up here. Berger and Associates consisted of all the same people in the corporation that had vaporized down there, and it was managing properties and on short list just like that. Matter of fact, Berger came in here back in '98 to apply to be our management agent, and William Harrison stood up there in our community center pitching how they would make a great management company because he knew the stuff backwards and forward, and he had wonderful alliances and friendships, and he could help us. We didn't pick him. I wasn't on the board then. The board was one half against the other, and 4 decided they were going to have John Stewart come back, because John Stewart had been here for 6 years and then been forced out, and that was just terrible, and they were going to make amends, and they were going to pull him back and have it run right again.
STUR.
STEWART. They are our current manager. Okay. They were our manager until 1998, December 1st, 1998. A company called Alton became the management agent.
ALTON.
ALTON. Again, strangely enough. I think
the nest of vipers reappeared.
They were they were people who had worked for John Stewart and been trained under John Stewart, and then had gone and started their own company. And I don't think any of them worked for HUD, but they just worked for John Stewart, and then after they learned the game, they set it up for themselves, and they got on the short list.
So what was wrong about about the question I asked before? It sounded like they set up this external. You don't understand what I mean by external.
No, you can't say it that way. Because
how much
they,
do you
oh
say?
my, we're at arm's length. You can't say that these federal people have anything to do with these. They're former employees, and can they help what they do with their lives afterwards? It just so happens they're qualified, you know, and they just have made the only determination they made that these people are qualified. Well, these people certainly are on their list, and they run all the properties, because if you're not on that list, you can't run one of these properties, and they can't manage them unless you're on the list. So either you worked for HUD, left HUD, formed a company, and then asked your former co-workers if they would consider you worthy of being on the list, and they said yes, and you got on the list, or somebody that was in your company, not in a higher management, because they were all the ex-HUD officials, but somebody that you hired and trained and had run and probably got familiar with how it worked, and then said, well, I like this. You make twice what I'd make managing anywhere else, and I've had all this experience, and I know what it's done, so I'm going to go apply to get on the list too, and I'm a minority in Alton's case. I deserve to be on that list because you don't have any yet.
So Alton is African American.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Al Reynolds and Billy Hutton and some other folks, all Alton, they got on. They used to
So
be.
either you used to be in HUD, or you got
Worked for
trained by
somebody-
HUD-trained people,
by HUD, former HUD officials
employees,
who were
and
now
that's the way
managements.
we put it.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't say it's an incestuous nest of vipers.
No,
We just-
no, we didn't say
Okay.
that. No, we didn't. We just felt that was a cozy relationship, possibly, but we didn't go nest of vipers. It's a bit.
Well,
a bit
you
much.
went incestuous. I
I did incestuous. I did. I mean, because come on. The current head of the multifamily unit, the one who's made all the decisions about King Garvey since I've been on this board, is, and for some time before, was Janet Browder.
That's the name you mentioned.
Janet Browder
Yeah.
is her first job at HUD was to work for William Harrison as his secretary when he left off being a loan officer and became the new head of the multifamily unit that she now heads. So he hired Pat Garay, who was the controller. He hired Margie Weinenberg, who was the on-site manager at King Garvey. These are all people who are former employees of his. And when he went out into the management business, like I say, he got into trouble. We didn't hear how it happened, but something happened down there in LA. And then now we did hear that when he came out and find out, though it's not outed, generally, but Mr. Berger and Associates ran afoul of the basic requirements for being neutral management companies, somehow got indicted. Just him, not everybody else, but they were all the company.
Harrison.
Harrison, Berger, these two women, two
Browder?
other. No, she still had. I mean, he left his secretary.
Okay. Okay.
He was the head of the multifamily unit. He had hired all kinds of people there. He took a whole flock of them with. Buddy Berger and him, they said, okay, well, you can come with us, you can come with us, and they all left at once.
Yeah, wait, don't say anything brilliant. Just cliffhanger here. Wait, I got it. And I'm not going to throw it on the floor. They just encase these things in these little snake skins.
What are those, 60 minutes?
90.
90? Yeah, 90.
45 aside. So we've been going an hour and a half here. You're amazing. You are amazing. I could tell that from our first phone conversation. I saw what was coming. Okay, so this is tape 2, and it's Friday, May 19th, 2006, talking to Sharon Jones about King Garvey. Okay, don't forget.
Without
What's the next
saying
thing?
nest of vipers or the other little phrases that I was using
Incestuous.
before, incestuous, we will say a very interesting set of circumstances happened in '98. In 98, half of the board decided that they wanted John Stewart to come back. The other 3 decided that they wanted Alton to come in for the first time.
Alton is African American.
Right. And Alton had made the board members who were very, very fond of Alton, had put him on the National Cooperative Board or the California Cooperative Board or something.
What
and
board?
There are a couple of associations that exist. One is the National Cooperative Housing Association, and the other is the California Cooperative Housing Association. All these co-ops can be a member of this organization, and you get training. You get to go to wonderful little junkets, like go to Washington or Atlanta or to Canada or wherever they're giving the annual meeting this year, and spend a week there in a hotel and going to all these fascinating seminars and lectures on how co-ops work and what a wonderful world it is. And anyway, Alton was on the board. Somehow most management companies have somebody on the board, and they're members of these as well as co-ops are. But it keeps them knowing all the people who are in cooperative housing, and in a position to somehow get the corporation to pay for them to go there. So probably decision makers and ones that you could decide to who your management agent is going to be. So
Across the country?
all over the place. Yep.
Nationally,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I like the National Association. I just, I notice that its membership, that there's not a manager on HUD's approved list who isn't a member of both the state one and the federal, because it's a nice way to cultivate future potential business.
Right.
As well as, of course, they can give seminars and help teach people who just became directors how these are supposed to run. And in 98, the side that decided they wanted John Stewart back, outnumbered by 1, the side that wanted Alton. And so John Stewart put in and was picked and gave a proposed contract and asked for approval something like May of 98. And HUD found a little problem with the standard agreement. No, you got to do this, and then you got to do this before you do that. And he had made a whole bunch of little requirements, and we want a plan, and we wanted this, and we want a long list, and I have a letter that changed about 9 months later. But anyway,
God bless you.
there's a bunch of preconditions before HUD would approve the reselection of John Stewart Company as management company again here at King Garvey. And they said that if he did all these things first, he'd come back and then they would decide.
Are you
Yeah,
cold?
but- yeah.
You have to do that because I can't
Yeah,
close
not a
it.
problem.
I'm not strong enough.
You want me to close it? Or is it hard? Not hard, sure?
I don't know, we'll see. The
I lift weights too.
By November, well, actually in October, the board gave notice to the company that was in place then
98.
in 98 and said, okay, you're out of here. We're going to have John Stewart in here next month. Well, even then, HUD wouldn't approve them. And John Stewart finally, by November, said, that's it, that's all. I don't have to go through this. I mean, I have done this, I've done that, now you want this too. So I got other things I go do. I'll do Acorn in Oakland, I'll do something else. I'm not going to bother.
John Stewart, a San Francisco company.
Yeah,
Okay.
John Stewart used to work for HUD.
So he's a real person.
He's a real person, yeah.
Okay. So what
But-
is your guess about what was going on there?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
Um,
I'm just trying
yeah,
to follow
that's-
you. I'm trying to track you. I'm
Right.
not trying to push you to go too
No,
fast.
no. It's this, took them from May or June when they got approved by the board, submitted their contract immediately, got a list of things they had to do. By November, John Stewart said, "Hey, I'm I'm not going to do it. And he said, I'm not going to take the contract. I'm going elsewhere. So he left. On December 1st, with only about 2 weeks' notice, HUD approved Alton to become the new management agent. And all the preconditions that were set for John were made post-conditions for Alton. You come on in, start 2 weeks from now, you're in, and then after you get in there, we want you to do this within a month, we want you to do that within, and had a whole, same list, same letter, just changed the dates and made it after instead of before, and changed the addressee, but exactly the same letter, with exactly the same requirements in it. And then it never required Alton to do any of that stuff that was a precondition.
So he never
for
did
John.
it?
He never did it. But he was in, like Flynn.
So this
he
was totally
now,
arbitrary.
Well, I didn't say that, but yeah, I wondered about that.
Yeah.
I thought maybe it seemed strange.
And you looked on it and you just saw dates. You saw some dates.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. So
There wasn't
you'll
any
see
big
'em.
thing made out of it. It was just there was some
No, it's just what
dates.
happened, okay. But what is a very interesting thing that isn't on those letters and what you had to find out, it took me, because there's like I say, it's not like a broadcasting system where they tell you what's really going on in the world of HUD or their management relations or anything like that. All I knew, I was a shareholder here, and I attended because the two sides of the board were worrying about who they wanted. They each interviewed potential agents. So I went to both sides of the boards, and neither one would go to the other one's interviews. So I went to all of them because I was curious, and I saw Mr. Harrison up there, and I saw Mr. Alton, Mr. Reynolds, and all these other people, all of the people who put in a bid in to become our management agent. And I was surprised because I really kind of thought it was going to go to Berger and Associates if John Stewart didn't get it. What I found out later was, oh shoot, Mr. Berger was indicted. Oh my, something the company did with properties, I don't know if it was like ours or anyway, properties that it could manage for HUD contracted people of some kind of property that HUD had something to do with because they were on that list, and HUD took Berger off the approved list. God forbid they would ever let Berger work for them again. Berger and Associates was on the list, and Berger and Associates was taken off the list, but and Associates bought a company that was 12 years old that ran a couple of properties down in Los Angeles called Santa Fe, and voila, everybody who used to be Berger and Associates, except Berger, became Santa Fe and Associates. And, well, it wasn't in time. They had to scuffle and come up with that. So they lost the contract bid that year. They didn't get it. And
Santa
Alton
Fe
got
and
it.
Associates lost.
Berger lost it
Berger lost it.
because they went
Indicted.
towards federal prison and just barely, I don't know what happened to him. I mean, I don't think he went to federal prison. I know he was indicted, and I know there was a problem. It had something to do with buying property that he was supposed to be managing, or who knows. But
What's his first name?
I got all that. Eugene, I believe.
Eugene Berger.
Yeah.
Berger.
Could be UR, but I'm not sure. Anyway, I've got the whole portfolio for the company and for Santa Fe, and you can just open it up and see, oh, him, oh, her, oh, her, oh, well, it's just everybody is in Santa Fe but Berger.
Okay.
But
it would be interesting to know what he was indicted for.
I would love to know that.
Yeah.
And I wish somebody would find that. See, I'm not a searcher.
Well, you see, that's why I
asked.
asked how his name was spelled.
Yeah. Well, like I say, I'll give you all the little stuff that you can just, if you know how to search or know somebody who knows how to search these things, there's a couple other little fascinating things about our board and members of our board I'd like to be searched too. But
and let me know what those are as
I
time goes
will.
on.
Yeah.
That'll be here. The key piece is that Berger in 1998 did not get to become our management company. In 1998, the reason all of a sudden we changed management companies was, and fired all the staff, some of them have been there 14 years, no matter who was the management company they were in position, all of them went. We had a huge federal raid. There was federal, state, and local. I mean, we had tobacco, firearms, we had...
Into King Garvey?
200 and some odd at 5:30 in the
They
morning,
sieged the
infrared.
Basically,
They
took
seized the property.
and
Were you
seized
here
it.
then?
I mean, they
Well,
came...
this was a surprise,
Oh
obviously.
my, yes. It just surprised 3 days before the election of Amos Brown to be reelected to the supervisor position. And I
It
think
was 2000. 2000?
98.
98.
98. I mean, within hours of this surprise raid, Willie Brown and Amos Brown were on TV, front of the card table, with all of the things that the 2-year infiltration of and mass thing had filled up this table. Well, hell, I'll tell you more about that little raid later. It's in the. I got the book that it's written up in, even, and I've got all the papers for the suits that were filed on behalf of residents that were abused by it. But it was down at the police commission hearing that we discovered that the police officers who were kind of putting it together had been told by HUD that this was the worst property in the city for drug infestation. And I mean, we beat Double Rock, we beat anywhere, Potrero Hill. I mean, this property that you're sitting in right now, den of iniquity. Seniors could not dare go out of their property, walk around. I mean, they might be mugged by these gang members around here. The gang members, federal charges being brought against gang members. The oldest of them was 21. They had just turned 21. The rest of them were 16, 18, 19. They'd never had any priors, most of them. Why? Because police officers would pick them up if they were selling some weed. They take the weed and the money and drop them off and tell them don't do that anymore, and then pick them up 3 weeks later, take their weed and their money and don't do that anymore. And they never arrested them.
There were no arrests made.
But all of a sudden, their homes have been targeted, and all these people have to be evicted because they are drug lords, God knows. And they're all the seniors in fear. They're living with their grandmothers, and they're drug lords. Okay, all right. Doesn't seem like they have tennis shoe money, but they're drug lords, and they've got everybody in fear here. And you look, half the houses they went into, it was pretty clear they went into the wrong house in the first place. It wasn't even supposed to be there. And that person never lived there, or that person had been thrown out by whoever was there and had the police take them out and keep them out, and they were in bunkers and didn't want them in. But it was not...
This should be in the funny papers. It'd be easy to research this one.
Yeah, I got one file cabinet on this one. I got the police reports that were made on this one. I've got the book, on cruel and unusual punishment, or whatever it is, where it's a little chapter in there on it.
What's that by?
I get it. The timing when you put Berger coming in about then, and the huge raid and this property that, well, it's obviously not decent, safe, and sanitary if it's controlled by drug lords. Well, what they did was send the property from the local office's jurisdiction. They reported us to, all of a sudden we were an at-risk property. We were